The Exile's Blade, Chapter 1, The Fall of Bastion. The air crackled with energy. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Ren, muscles taut, eyes narrowed, gripped his training blade as the alarms blared through the cavernous halls of the Bastion. The once serene sanctuary of the Blades of Exile, a fortress carved into the heart of Terra Nova, was now a symphony of chaos. He could feel the vibrations in his bones, the rhythmic pounding of heavy footsteps, and the distant thunder of explosions. The metallic tang of blood hung in the air, a grim reminder of the stakes. "Initiate Ren!" Master Kale's voice boomed through the din, urgency etching his weathered face. "This is no drill. The Hegemony is here. Take up your blade and defend our home." Ren nodded, a steely resolve hardening his gaze. He had trained for this moment his entire life. The blades, remnants of a shattered Terran civilization, had honed him into a weapon, a guardian of their ancient knowledge and a beacon of defiance against their oppressors. Every swing of his blade, every grueling session in the training yard, had been a preparation for this very moment. The Hegemony, a ruthless alien empire that had conquered countless worlds, sought to extinguish the last embers of Terran resistance. Terra Nova, a desolate yet defiant world, was their final target. A world rich in resources, yet harsh and unforgiving. It was a testament to the Terran spirit that they had carved a life out of this barren landscape. Ren surged forward, his footsteps echoing through the stone corridors. Around him, other blades mobilized, their faces grim but determined. The air thrummed with the activation of hidden defenses, energy shields shimmering to life as Terran tech met Hegemony firepower. The rhythmic hum of power generators intensified, the lights flickering momentarily as the Bastion's ancient systems strained under the onslaught. Bursting into the main chamber, Ren was met with a scene of devastation. Hegemony troopers, clad in gleaming armor, swarmed through the once pristine hall, their energy weapons blazing. Blades fought back with a ferocity born of desperation, their training blades flashing, deflecting bolts of energy and delivering swift, lethal strikes. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and burnt flesh, the floor slick with blood. Ren joined the fray, his blade a blur as he weaved through the chaos. He ducked under a wild blast, countered a lunging trooper, and drove his blade home with a guttural cry. The trooper crumpled, their armor no match for the blade's honed skills. But for every enemy he felled, two more seemed to take their place. The Hegemony were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. Ren fought with a grim determination, his body aching, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He saw his comrades fall one by one, their lives extinguished in a blaze of defiance. Each loss was a blow to his heart, a reminder of the stakes. As the Bastion crumbled around him, a final order echoed through the comms. "Evacuate! Retreat to the secondary base!" The voice was that of Elder Anya, the leader of the Blades, her usually calm tone laced with desperation. Ren hesitated, his heart heavy with loss. He wanted to fight, to avenge his fallen brothers and sisters, but the Master's words echoed in his mind. Survival is not weakness. It is the seed of future victory. He knew he couldn't let the Hegemony win completely, couldn't let the Blade's legacy die here. With a final, desperate glance at the burning ruins of his home, Ren turned and fled, the weight of his failure heavy on his shoulders. But in his heart, a vow burned hotter than the flames consuming the Bastion. He would not rest until the Hegemony paid for their crimes. This was not the end. It was merely the beginning of his quest for vengeance, a Terran requiem for his fallen comrades, and the start of a long and bloody road to reclaim his people's freedom. Chapter 2. Whispers of the Ancients. The sky above Terra Nova bled a bruised purple as the remnants of the Blades stumbled through the skeletal remains of a once proud Terran city. Shattered ferrocrete towers pierced the smog-choked horizon, casting long, ominous shadows that danced with the flickering flames of distant fires. Ren, his training blade still slick with Hegemony blood, led the ragged band of survivors through the labyrinthine ruins. "Keep your eyes sharp and your blades close," Ren rasped, his voice roughened by smoke and exhaustion. "The Hegemony won't stop until every last one of us is hunted down." Ilara, a former Hegemony engineer whose defection had saved countless lives, clung to the group's rear. Her face, usually pale and composed, was etched with worry. "We need to find shelter before nightfall," she whispered, her eyes scanning the crumbling facades. "The Hegemony has night vision, and we don't." Ren nodded grimly, his eyes searching for any sign of refuge. "Elder Anya mentioned a hidden sanctuary," he said, recalling fragments of a conversation from long ago. "A place where our ancestors hid knowledge and relics from the Hegemony." "A sanctuary?" Alara's eyes widened. "If it still exists, it could be our salvation." For hours they navigated the crumbling city, following Alara's whispered directions and instinct. The ruins were a maze of twisted metal and shattered glass, a testament to the Hegemony's brutal efficiency. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay and the lingering echoes of conflict. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the ruins in a ghostly twilight, Alara led them to a hidden passageway, concealed behind a cascade of rubble. "This is it," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "The entrance to the sanctuary." Ren pushed aside the debris, revealing a narrow tunnel leading into the depths of the earth. He hesitated, his senses on high alert. "It could be a trap," he warned. Alara shook her head. "It's our only chance, trust me." Ren nodded, his trust in Alara hard-earned through their shared trials. He took a deep breath and stepped into the darkness, the others following close behind. The tunnel was narrow and winding, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and stale air. After what seemed like an eternity, they emerged into a vast underground chamber, illuminated by a soft, bioluminescent glow. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings depicting ancient Terran heroes in battles. In the center of the chamber, resting on a stone pedestal, was a sleek, metallic blade, its hilt adorned with intricate symbols. Ren approached the blade cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. As he reached out to touch it, a wave of energy surged through him, tingling his fingertips and sending a shiver down his spine. "The Exile's blade!" Alara whispered, her eyes filled with awe. "A relic of our ancestors, said to possess immense power." Ren grasped the hilt, feeling the weight of history in his hand. The blade hummed with energy, a silent promise of vengeance, and the hope of a future free from the Hegemony's tyranny. The sanctuary had given them a lifeline, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. But it was only the beginning of their journey, a journey that would test their courage, their resolve, and the strength of their bond. Chapter 3. The Blade Awakens. Days turned into nights, the bioluminescent glow of the sanctuary becoming Ren's only companion. Sweat dripped from his brow, his muscles screamed in protest, yet he didn't relent. The Exile's blade, a cold and gleaming extension of his arm, moved in a dance of steel and shadows, a symphony of motion honed by countless repetitions. Each swing, each parry, each thrust brought a new revelation. The blade was not merely a weapon, it was a conduit, a bridge to a past he had only heard whispers of. In the quiet moments of rest, the blade whispered to him, its voice a symphony of echoes from a forgotten era. "Balance," the blade whispered, as Ren stumbled after a particularly grueling session. "Balance is the key to power." Alara watched from the sidelines, her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and concern. She had seen the toll the training was taking on Ren, the bags under his eyes, the taut lines of his face. "You need to rest, Ren," she said, her voice soft yet firm. "The blade won't unlock its secrets if you push yourself to the brink of exhaustion." Ren paused, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "I can't rest," he replied, his eyes fixed on the blade. "Not until I'm ready to face the Hegemony." Alara stepped closer, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. "The blade won't be enough," she said. "You need to understand your enemy, their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses." Ren turned to face her, his eyes searching hers for answers. "And how do we do that?" he asked. Alara smiled, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "That's where I come in," she said. "I may not be a warrior like you, but I know the Hegemony. I've seen their inner workings, their vulnerabilities." In the days that followed, Alara became Ren's tutor, sharing her knowledge of Hegemony, technology, and tactics. She spoke of their reliance on energy shields, their complex communication networks, and their blind arrogance in their own superiority. Ren absorbed every word, every detail, weaving Alara's knowledge into his training with the blade. He began to see the hegemony not as an insurmountable force, but as a complex system with its own weaknesses. One evening, as they huddled around a flickering fire, Alara unfolded a map of a nearby hegemony outpost. "This is our target," she said, tracing a finger along a series of lines. "A fuel depot critical to their operations. If we can cripple it, we can send a message to the hegemony. We can show them that we will not go quietly into the night." Ren stared at the map, his mind racing. A daring plan began to form in his mind. A plan that would require every ounce of his skill, every scrap of Alara's knowledge, and the full power of the Exile's blade. He looked at Alara, his eyes gleaming with a newfound determination. "We'll show them," he said, his voice low and steady. "We'll show the hegemony that the spirit of Terra Nova still burns bright." Chapter 4, A Spark of Defiance. The pre-dawn sky was a canvas of obsidian streaked with crimson as Ren led his band of blades towards the hegemony outpost. The air crackled with nervous energy, the only sound the rhythmic crunch of boots on the barren ground. "Remember," Ren whispered, his voice barely audible above the wind's howl. "Speed and silence. We strike like shadows, then vanish like ghosts." Alara, her eyes gleaming in the faint starlight, nodded in agreement. Vex won't know what hit him. The outpost loomed in the distance, a grotesque monument to hegemony oppression. Its harsh, angular structures pulsed with an eerie blue light, a stark contrast to the natural beauty of Terra Nova. Ren drew the Exile's blade, its hilt warm against his palm. A wave of energy surged through him, invigorating his tired muscles and sharpening his senses. He could feel the blade's hunger, its eagerness to taste hegemony blood. With a silent signal, the blades dispersed, each member a phantom in the darkness. They moved with the grace and precision of seasoned predators, their blades a whisper of death in the night. Ren breached the outpost perimeter with ease, Alara's tech silently disabling the security systems. Inside, the corridors were eerily quiet, the only sound the steady hum of machinery. The blades moved swiftly, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpets. They reached the command center, a sprawling chamber filled with holographic displays and blinking lights. A lone hegemony officer sat at the central console, his back turned. Ren moved like a shadow, his blade a whisper of steel. Before the officer could react, Ren had disarmed him and pressed the cold edge of the blade against his throat. "Where is Commander Vex?" Ren growled, his voice low and menacing. The officer, his face pale with fear, stammered out a response. He's not here. He left for the capital this morning." Ren cursed under his breath. He had hoped to confront Vex directly, to make him pay for his crimes against Terra Nova. But it seemed fate had other plans. As they searched the command center, Alara discovered a hidden data cache. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the files, her face growing pale. "Oh, gods," she whispered, her voice trembling. This is horrifying." Ren moved to her side, his heart pounding. "What is it?" Alara turned to him, her eyes filled with horror. "The hegemony. They're planning to wipe us out, completely. They've labeled us a threat to galactic stability and have authorized a full-scale extermination." Ren felt a wave of cold fury wash over him. The hegemony's cruelty knew no bounds. They would stop at nothing to crush the Terran spirit. He gripped the Exile's blade tighter, the ancient metal humming in response to his rage. "They won't get away with this," he snarled. "We will fight, we will resist, we will never surrender." As they made their escape, the outpost's alarm blared, signaling their presence. But it was too late for the hegemony. The blades had struck a blow, a spark of defiance that would ignite the flames of rebellion across Terra Nova. News of the raid spread like wildfire, inspiring hope and courage in the hearts of oppressed Terrans. And in the heart of Commander Vex, a burning obsession grew. He would find the blades. He would crush them, and he would make them pay for daring to challenge the hegemony's might. Chapter 5, The Crucible of Vengeance. The Hegemony Research Facility, a monolithic structure of gleaming metal and pulsating energy fields, dominated the desolate landscape. Its imposing presence radiated an aura of menace, a testament to the Empire's technological prowess. Ren, cloaked in the shadows of the surrounding cliffs, observed the facility through a pair of high-tech binoculars. "This is it," he whispered, his voice barely a breath in the windswept night. The heart of their war machine. Ilara, her fingers dancing across a holographic display, nodded in agreement. Vex is in there, overseeing the development of their latest weapon. A cold determination hardened Ren's gaze. Then let's give him a welcome he won't forget. Under the cover of darkness, the blades made their move. Ilara's tech expertise proved invaluable, disabling security cameras and manipulating door codes with ease. They moved through the facility like phantoms, their footsteps silent on the metallic floors. They reached the central lab, a vast chamber bathed in the eerie glow of experimental energy fields. Vex, clad in his ornate hegemony armor, stood before a massive device, his back turned. "Commander Vex," Ren said, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Vex whirled around, his eyes widening in surprise. "You," he snarled, drawing his energy pistol. "I should have known you were behind the outpost raid." Ren met his gaze unflinchingly, the Exile's blade gleaming in the dim light. "We're here to end your reign of terror," he said. Vex sneered. "You and what army?" From the shadows the blades emerged, their blades drawn. A tense silence hung in the air as the two forces faced off. "Fools," Vex spat. "You're outnumbered and outmatched." Ren smiled coldly. "We'll see about that." With a cry, the blades charged. The lab erupted into chaos as the two sides clashed. Blades danced around hegemony troopers, their movements a blur of motion. Energy blasts ricocheted off the walls, the air filled with the acrid smell of ozone. Ren engaged Vex in a fierce duel, their blades clashing with a shower of sparks. Vex was a skilled fighter, but Ren's training with the Exile's blade had honed him into a deadly weapon. He parried Vex's attacks with ease, his movements fluid and precise. As they fought, Ilara worked her magic on the hegemony systems. With a few deft keystrokes, she disabled the lab's security protocols, granting the blades access to the inner sanctum. There, in the heart of the facility, they discovered the hegemony's ultimate weapon, a massive energy cannon powered by a glowing Terran crystal. Ren's blood ran cold. The crystal was a relic from his homeworld, a source of power that the hegemony had stolen and twisted for their own nefarious purposes. "They're using our own power against us," Ren said, his voice filled with rage. "This ends now." He surged forward, the Exile's blade singing in his hand. With a mighty blow, he shattered the crystal, sending a shockwave of energy rippling through the lab. The hegemony's weapon sputtered and died, its power extinguished. Vex, weakened by his duel with Ren, roared in frustration. "You haven't won yet," he screamed. "The hegemony will crush you like the insects you are." Ren raised the Exile's blade, its glow illuminating his determined face. "We are not insects," he said. "We are the blades of Exile, and we will never surrender." With a final defiant cry, he lunged towards Vex, the Exile's blade poised to deliver the final blow. Chapter 6, Requiem for the Hegemony. The Hegemony's central command, a gargantuan spire piercing the smog-laden sky of Prime, thrummed with a sinister energy. A sea of Terran fighters, a ragtag fleet of repurposed freighters and salvaged warships, swarmed around it like angry hornets. Ren, standing on the bridge of the lead ship, the Defiance, felt the pulse of battle in his veins. "This is it," Ilara said, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. "The final stand." Ren nodded, his gaze fixed on the looming spire. "For Terra Nova," he said, his voice a low growl. The Exile's blade, strapped to his back, hummed in anticipation. It had revealed its true power during the raid on the research facility, unleashing a devastating energy wave that had crippled the hegemony's defenses. Now it was ready to sing its final deadly song. The Terran fleet opened fire, a storm of laser blasts and missile strikes battering the spire's shields. The hegemony retaliated with a fury, their weapons spitting bolts of energy that tore through the Terran ranks. Ren watched as ships exploded, their crews lost to the void of space. A wave of grief washed over him, but he pushed it down. There was no time for mourning. Not yet. "Ilara," he barked, "give me a path to the command center." Ilara's fingers flew across the console, her eyes darting between displays. "There's a weak point in their shield matrix," she said. "A small window, but it should be enough." Ren nodded. "I'll take a strike team through. You coordinate the fleet." He gathered his most trusted blades, veterans of countless battles, their faces hardened by war, but their eyes burning with determination. Together they boarded a dropship, its engines roaring as it plunged towards the heart of the Hegemony stronghold. They landed in a maelstrom of chaos, Hegemony troopers swarming around them like angry insects. Ren drew the Exile's blade, its glow cutting through the smoke and confusion. "For Terra Nova!" he roared, leading his team into the fray. The blades fought their way through the labyrinthine corridors, their blades flashing, their bodies moving in a deadly dance. They reached the central chamber where the High Inquisitor awaited, his eyes burning with malevolent energy. "So the Terran whelp has come to die," the Inquisitor hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. Ren met his gaze unflinchingly. "Not today," he said. "Today the Hegemony dies." He charged, the Exile's blade a beacon of defiance. The Inquisitor met his attack, his own dark energy crackling around his form. Their blades clashed, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The duel was a whirlwind of steel and energy, a clash of wills as much as a battle of strength. Ren fought with the fury of a cornered animal, channeling the collective rage of his people. The Inquisitor, though powerful, was no match for Ren's determination and the Exile's blade's ancient power. With a final desperate strike, Ren drove the blade through the Inquisitor's heart, extinguishing his dark energy in a blinding flash. As the Inquisitor's lifeless body slumped to the ground, a shockwave rippled through the spire. The Hegemony's command systems flickered and died, their control over the fleet severed. The Terran fighters, sensing victory, redoubled their attacks, the spire crumbling under their relentless assault. Ren watched as the symbol of Hegemony oppression collapsed, a fitting end to a tyrannical empire. He felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him, but also a sense of profound satisfaction. The Hegemony was gone, Terra Nova was free.